the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, guys, welcome back to the View from C-Deck, and now we're here to talk about the Week 4 college football gambling lines, make our money. Last week I went 4-1 with 4 easy wins and 1 very interesting loss. I think Texas Tech's coach was throwing the game and had money on it because he was only down 13 with 9 minutes to go and didn't use any timeouts the rest of the game. But I digress. Casey here, the Dyerwolf's delights, only 2-3 again. We're sitting at 3-7 on the year. This is not delightful or dimes, or you're at the lights until you get to 500 at least. You don't get to change the name. Hoss Handies went 2-3. He's sitting at 500 on the year, just like me. So we're trying to get back into the red, get the good stuff going. We're going to give you some good stuff though this week. I think we're starting to get a handle on the season a little bit better. It is always hard early on, I think, especially when you have a week like week 2 and no favorites cover basically. But here we are. It's a decent slate this week. What games are catching your eye?
Coming into it, Texas, the over-under of their win total was 8.5, and that was including a Bama guaranteed loss. And then they should have won that game. So then now this Texas Tech game, you'd think they would put a whooping on them. But I'm guessing that was one of the games that Vegas was thinking they might lose, and it is a lower spread. But that one caught my eye. It's 6.5, so I win by a touchdown. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the PAT, of course. That one caught my eye a little bit. And then that Florida-Tennessee game I think will be really good.
Great game.
And the Michigan State-Minnesota game I think is going to be a really good game. That could, neither team is ranked right now. I would have thought Minnesota would be, but I guess
they should be. They should be.
Yeah, and State I think is the team getting the most votes that's not ranked. So whoever wins that game is obviously going to be ranked next week. If Minnesota wins, they're looking real good to win the Big Ten West. One more win in the Big Ten column there, but those are the ones that are catching my eye outside of our game, obviously.
Yeah, but we are a Buckeye-centric podcast here, so we're going to start out with Ohio State, even though it's a night game. Ohio State minus 18 on our, as we record this on a Tuesday night, over-under of 57 as well. We both, on our Buckeye podcast, picked the Buckeyes to cover and the under, though, thinking that we might slow down the offense of Wisconsin and that they'll be able to keep the pace, though, low enough and keep us from completely going off on them like we just did Toledo, to the tune of 77 points and about 760-something yards of offense, something ridiculous like that. It's just the high-powered offense. It's been a tough matchup. It's been a mismatch like every year. Sometimes they've kept it closer with mainly due to their style of play with their pounding the rock and being able to control the clock. I don't know if they can do that, though. This team's shown that they can stop the run if they put their mind to it. And if you don't have the passing attack, it does seem to be the vulnerability of the Buckeye defense. Wisconsin doesn't have it. So, again, the athletic mismatches where they can't just bulldoze us on the line of scrimmage leads to, I think, a pretty clear-cut victory for the Buckeyes. It seems to, and they have some injuries on their defensive secondary against the best passing attack in the country.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up if you didn't, because you mentioned it in the previous podcast that it's almost like it's just set up great for us. Their strength on offense is running the ball, obviously, and if we have a strength on defense, I think it's stopping the run. It's obviously not stopping the pass at this point. And then our strength is obviously passing the ball, and then all those injuries in their secondary is going to hurt them, obviously. So it's all about how this game starts. If we get out to a big lead, I think it's going to be a long day for them.
Yeah. Yeah, if we get ahead, it's over quick. It's an easy cover.
Yeah.
Much like most of my games the other week.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, though, noon slate has a pretty big Big Ten game to start out. Michigan and Maryland. Michigan's destroyed 3 of the worst teams in college football the first 3 weeks. So we don't know much about them, but we don't know a ton about Maryland either. They had a very close game. They trailed SMU for a lot of the game last week. They came back and were victorious and are also 3-0. It's at Michigan. Michigan's 17-point favorites right now. I think we had them at 16.5 when we picked, though, so that's what we're going with on our line. I'm taking Michigan as one of my picks for the week, one of my 5, and so is Hoss, is one of Hoss's handies for Jim Harbaugh. Hoss handy for Harbaugh, yes. It's more my lack of faith in Maryland in big games like this. They played a very similar matchup, only it was at home against Iowa last year. Early in the season, 2 undefeated teams, and got smoked and threw 6 interceptions. Michigan's defense is good, but we don't know how good because Toledo's defense was good until they played us. And Maryland's by far the best offense that I've seen. Maryland's defense, though, not very good still. Michigan offense, I do think, is legit. They have talent across the board, experience across the board, and J.J. McCarthy unlocks a little bit more potential in that offense. So I think Michigan handles them to the tune of like 49-24 or something like that.
See, I almost picked Maryland in this game and then just stayed away from it just because how easy their schedule's been. We know nothing about them. And they go from playing like the 130th, 129th, 125th team to like 40th in Maryland. I'm not sure where they are, but they're undefeated, so they got to be somewhere in the top 40, I would think. So I think it could catch them off guard a little bit. Like everything's been real easy for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it is at home, so I'm sure they're going to win. But I could see Maryland keeping it closer than 17.
Yeah, it could happen. It's going to be a weird one, but it's also on the road. I said I just don't trust Mike Loxley. Moving on, ACC has a huge top 25 matchup. Clemson and Wake Forest. Clemson only 7-point favorites on the road. Makes a little bit of sense, though. Wake's been good the last couple of years. They're undefeated coming into this game. I think I still like Clemson. They're gonna. I don't know is Brian Breesy going to play. I'm not even sure. He had a death in the family. His 15-year-old sister died, which pass on our best wishes to them. But without him, that D line is really ferocious, but not as ferocious. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays. But Clemson has struggled on offense still. They have a lot of the same problems. They're just really good on D. I believe they beat Wake last year, though. I think I still like Clemson, even though they're giving up the 7. It's just I just don't trust Wake in this kind of situation. And I have Clemson in the playoffs, so I got to kind of go with my boys here.
Yeah, I didn't pick this game, but if I had,
it's not one of my games either. Yeah,
I'd pick Clemson, but that was a head scratcher for me. Like you said, it's like it almost like in years past, you'd see they're only favored by 7, and be one of those where it makes me think to do the opposite there. But I think, like you said, it makes sense because they struggle to score points. It could be a low scoring game here. So, I mean, if it's, 21-17 or 21-14 or something, it could be something along those lines. So yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't cover 7. But if I had to pick it, I'd pick Clemson.
Yeah. Penn State taking on Central Michigan after Penn State blows out Auburn on the road. 28 points, though, a lot to be given up coming off a big game like that. Central Michigan's just kind of your middle of the road MAC team this year. Penn State's running back, by the way, scary. Still averaging like 12 yards a carry for the season, even after going down to Auburn. No Singleton's going to be really good. But this game, I would take the points with Central Michigan just because of the come down factor for Penn State. And it being like a noon kickoff. It's one of those easy games to be up 17-14 at halftime for some reason, even though you shouldn't be, and then blow them out in the second half, but it's still like a 24-point win, something like that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on it. I stayed completely away from it for that exact. I think they're by far the better team, but they just came up off of one of the better non-conference wins in their recent history, at least in the regular season. and I can just see, like you're saying, it's almost like a come down. Like they know they're going to win. The players probably they would never admit this, but they just beat Auburn, so
they were for that game for sure. The way they whooped them.
yeah.
Also, it should be a good matchup. Baylor at Iowa State. Iowa State 2.5-point favorites against the Bears. Jason has picked this one as one of his handies as well. He's got the Bears plus 2.5. So I'm guessing he more or less thinks they win outright. That's almost a pick 'em right there. Gonna be interesting matchup there. Just because Iowa State's offense isn't great, but they have the win over Iowa. Baylor has the loss against BYU at home in double overtime. It's very. I mean, I'm not picking on this game because it's just too close and it's basically pick 'em spread.
Where is it?
At Iowa State. So basically, what Davis is saying is it's a pick 'em. It's 3 points for home field, right?
Yeah. So I guess if I had to, I'd pick Iowa State just because it's home. But I'd almost say that win against Iowa doesn't really mean anything because I think Iowa might be like the second or third worst team in the conference.
Only thing it means to me is they've had trouble getting that monkey off their back.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
All right, 3:30 get slots. Now here's where things start heating up. Florida and Tennessee. Florida going into Tennessee. Tennessee finally looks like a good team for the first time since like 2007. Undefeated, high-powered offense. Won a big game on the road already against Pitt, but they're at home for this one. Florida has been pretty up and down this year. They beat Utah at home, then lose a tough one at home. They haven't gone on the road yet to Kentucky, who's a good team. Then they struggle at home to beat South Florida last week, winning at the end of the game, 31-28. So they're getting 10, but I have good old Rocky Top Tennessee in this one. I'll lay the 10. I like their offense. I think Florida's just too up and down. And Richardson's been throwing a lot of picks, so if he does that on the road, and that environment is going to be about as hype as you can be since Tennessee's finally good, like I said.
Yeah. I actually picked the opposite of this. I think it's going to be a really good game. They're both, Tennessee's looking good. Florida's, like you said, shown ups and downs, but I think they'll come to play in this type of game.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see, I could actually see Florida being up late and then Tennessee kind of coming back in the end to win by a field goal or something along those lines. But I think it's going to be a one-possession game. So I see that 10 points, so I got Florida.
Okay. I wish Steve Spurrier would come back just for this game to talk shit to Tennessee again. Can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. God, what a guy. What a guy. The other 3:30 game, the one you picked on here earlier, just because I think because you have – you didn't pick them for this one. Yeah, you did. Texas against Texas Tech.
Yep.
I know you have your big over-under win total parlay with a lot, right? This is a key game, a key swing game in that one. You took the Longhorns -6.5.
Yep. And that parlay you're talking about, I got Texas over 8.5 wins. I got Michigan over 9.5 that I feel like is a lock. And then I actually got Ohio State 10.5, which with bad odds, but all combined, it's a pretty nice little payout. So this one's pivotal. If they lose this one, I'm probably not looking great. They cover that 8. But yeah, -6.5. I like that number. 7 gets me the win. So I think it's going to be a tight game for sure. But it almost looked like they weren't going to cover last week, and then they ended up covering pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I could see it kind of being like that type of game.
Plus, Texas Tech's coach doesn't give a shit about covering, apparently. He'll just waste his timeouts and just let the clock run. And no, I'm not going to kick a field. We're down 9. I'm not going to kick the field goal to get down 6. Why would I do that? Something of that nature, I expect, because that was just.
Yeah.
I still got 5-0 last week. God damn it. Minnesota travels to Michigan State for the biggest Big Ten matchup of the day. 3:30 kick. Neither team's ranked. They both should be. Michigan State getting punished they were not great, but they made it respectable at Washington, and Washington's been looks pretty good this year, to be honest. Minnesota has been excellent their first 3 games, running all over everybody, moving the ball all over everybody. I think I said in our preview for the season that I like their value to win the Big Ten at like plus 2,500 because I think they had a good chance of coming out of the West. I thought Wisconsin would, but I thought Minnesota had a great chance of coming out of the West. However, I'm taking Sparty. I think they were getting 3 when I picked here. Yeah, Sparty plus 3. Both teams are good against the run. That definitely helps Sparty more, though, because that is the most of what Minnesota's offense is. They have, obviously, Tanner Morgan's a solid quarterback. But going into Sparty, they have a better passing offense, too. They had to play a legit team, which Minnesota has not yet. Last week, I like Sparty. I like the points. I think it's a good chance I push on this, and it's like 24-21. They lose. But I like getting those 3 at home and think Sparty, I think they went outright. I think it'll be really close, though. Really close game. Really good game.
Yeah, I didn't pick it. And I would be completely shocked if this wasn't a nail biter.
Yeah.
It's games. So I stayed away from it. I think Minnesota's going to win, but I don't know. It's going to be a coin flip.
Yeah. Two very evenly matched teams and very similarly built teams.
Just a quick touch on the polls bias. It's probably like a broken record here, but SEC has like 8 ranked teams in the top 25. The Big Ten has 4, I believe.
They have like 5 in the top 11.
Maybe only 3. I think actually no, it's only us, Michigan, and Penn State. That's it. And then over half of the SEC is ranked. It's a freaking joke.
And Penn State just got ranked because they beat the shit out of an SEC team.
Yep. And you just mentioned 2 teams that should be ranked.
Yeah. I don't know why. Especially, why is Minnesota not 3-0 P5 team? There's plenty of teams that have lost games that are in the top 25. It's dumb. They haven't beat anybody yet. I almost picked Ole Miss this week. They played Tulsa at 4, minus 21.5. They're just rolling along with the lane train, but I don't trust them yet enough for back-to-back picks. Now we're getting into the night games. Another big SEC matchup start out there. Arkansas at A&M. A&M 2-point favorites. I'm staying away from this one too. I think this is very evenly matched teams. Arkansas's defense has not been good, and they fell asleep last week and almost lost to Missouri State at home. But they have a good quarterback and a good enough offense that they can kind of hang with everybody. A&M gets a big home win after the big home loss, but their offense still looks like it's stuck in the mud. Only scoring 17 after they only scored 14 the week before that. It's tough. It makes me think Arkansas. Plus, I'm getting 2 points. I think I'm leaning with go Hogs.
I said earlier to you that I'm looking at trying to make a pick, and I'm like, I just don't trust Arkansas. And you said, well, do you trust A&M? I said, no. They're both overrated. But I just have a feeling Jimbo will figure it out and get the W in this one.
They had looked impressive last week, I think that, but they still don't look good. So I don't think I think if they would have figured it out, it would have been last week. And they didn't. So I'm not, it could be if they could definitely win the game, but I don't think it's big at all. Just when we have to touch because of the hilarity of Iowa and their offense every week, Iowa goes to Rutgers. And I believe you picked this one.
No,
yeah, you got this one. This is a Dyerwolf delight.
Yep.
Over under of 34.5. Oh, Iowa did, by the way. I said pick Iowa just because it was weird, the 23-point line, and they did cover like 27-0. I think they won. It was still under on the 40 though.
Oh my God. This one, my guts. Rutgers. They're not legit or anything, but they're 3-0. It's a Power 5 team. They're kind of like a Kansas. They're probably not as good as Kansas,
yeah.
But Iowa tends to stay in these close games. I like that extra half point, 7.5.
Mm-hmm. That's a good hook.
Yeah, so that's kind of what steered me that way. I see Rutgers keeping this game close. I could even see them winning, but they'll probably piss down their leg at the end. But I see this being a 1-possession game and being under 7.5.
Yeah, you got the under on the 34.5. I could see that. They're both.
No, I'm saying Iowa wins by less than 7.5.
Oh yeah. I would take Rutgers too in this one. And I would take the under because they're both really good against the run and both cannot pass. So, yikes. Get ready to slog through it. Iowa football. If you don't love trestle ball at its worst, then you don't love Iowa football. All right. Bama's got Jason's favorite team, Vanderbilt, at home, 40.5-point game. I'm staying away from that too. Just something to note. Jason stayed away from Vanderbilt this week.
Oh, geez.
Actually, I told him no more games outside the top 25 or Big Ten, and they played a top 25 game. He could have picked them, and he wussed out. No handies there. We got Oklahoma hosting Kansas State though, which should be a pretty good matchup. Oklahoma coming off the beatdown of Nebraska post Scott Frost. That was one of your ballsy picks last week, or you stayed away from it, right?
Yeah, I thought about it, and then I was like, I don't think so. And the funny thing is, they go up 7-0, and I'm like, holy shit, this might be. And then they never scored again.
Then a 49-0 run.
Yeah.
Occurs. I like Oklahoma minus 13 there. I think they actually look pretty legit so far under Will Venables, which is not totally surprising.
Yep. I could see I mean, based on my parlay, I think them and Texas are going to be the two best teams in the Big 12. Oklahoma will likely win that championship, but I would like them in that game, the Kansas State.
Now night games, getting late in the Pac-12. USC only 6.5-point favorites to Oregon State. It keeps happening. They keep having these kind of weird lines. Jason's riding them as he has been all year. He's taking USC minus 6.5. Oregon State is undefeated 3-0. They've been solid, but kind of like Rutgers-esque though. You think they keep going? I think USC keeps it going. At least they win by a touchdown. They've lost to weird games at Oregon State before. I've seen that.
Nope. I got to keep my gambler's fallacy going here. I didn't do
This is just a Dyerwolf theory.
Yeah. I didn't do my ballsy picks again, but this would have been one because it's just too easy. But I've done it both times and been wrong both times. But I would pick Oregon State in this one. Yeah.
Getting the 6.5. I like it better because it's on the road for USC. Was that Stanford game? I think the Stanford game was on the road too. Speaking of Stanford, you have Washington minus 14 against Stanford. Washington looked excellent, especially the penis, Michael Penix Jr. Against Michigan State. Not that it's hard to look good against Michigan State's secondary. If you're any sort of a good passing offense, you're going to throw for 300 plus yards. I think he threw for 380-ish against them, and another 4 touchdowns. 14 though, pretty big spread, but I think I still like the Huskies. It is a come down game though for them a little bit.
That's the only thing that's got me a little hesitant. It is a little bit of a come down game, but it's a conference game. So I mean, and they're pretty big rivals in their history. So they're not just some pushover team that they're playing. It's freaking Stanford that has been good historically. So 14, I wish it was 13.5, but the 14 scares me a little bit. They'll probably win by 13, but
at this second, it is 13.5.
Yeah, well,
too bad we picked it earlier.
But yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. Washington minus 14.
All right, I'm with you on that one. And our last game, this is one of my picks. We need to come up with a name for the Just Matt's picks, but it's been too up and down. So right now, we'll figure it out. I'm always on though. You guys can't make fun of me without me being present. I have Utah at Arizona State, who just fired their coach Herm Edwards in the end zone. I think it looks like it on the video, which is just a trash move, by the way. Because Herm deserves better than that. Although maybe not. He's gotten them in a lot of trouble too. With they're on all kinds of trouble for recruiting violations. They're maybe on, which is now's the worst time. I guess the transfer portal though. But Utah minus 14 when I picked it. It's already up to 14.5 now too. On the road, Arizona State is not a good team at all right now. and losing at home to Eastern Michigan proved that last week. And Utah is, I think, running on full steam after they took that early season L. All right, that's the slate for this week. You have any changes in your predictions? I forgot to ask you during the Buckeye podcast too what you think of the Buckeyes' chances, if have they increased or decreased. But we'll leave that for another time. Have your 4 teams changed for the college football playoff?
They have not for now, but I'm thinking Alabama is going to drop out there shortly.
See, Clemson's the one that's got me worried now, the way their offense has not been fixed. But their schedule is just so easy.
Yeah, I could see Bama losing one along the way and then losing to Georgia.
Yeah.
I can see that.
It's very possible, but I think they run the West is just not that good either, though. But they do play Tennessee, which that could be interesting. Of course, Tennessee could be a sleeper to get in even if they have 11-1 and a loss to Georgia, but they beat Bama.
Yeah, they're in.
Good chance they.
USC though, if they keep winning, if they're 11-1 Pac-12 champ versus 11-2 SEC loser, they're in over that, right? I mean,
yeah, I know it's gonna get interesting. I think now the way things are starting to line up. I mean, we still have, but a lot of teams still look vulnerable, so we could have a lot more team chaos, maybe just winning the year this year.
All that matters for us is just win, baby.
Just win, baby. One thing Al Davis did right. All right, that's it for the Dyerwolf and myself, Just Matt. Thanks again for tuning in. Like us, comment on our thread here. See what tell us that Arizona State's going to somehow get behind their new coach and administration. It's not going to happen. But tell us that Michigan is going to fail when they finally play a legit team. I would love for that to happen. Follow us on Twitter at View from CDEC, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.